Ladies and gentlemen, imagine this: you're settled into your seat on a routine flight, the hum of the engines a familiar lullaby, the cabin filled with the soft rustle of passengers preparing for an uneventful journey. You're in row 13, nestled against the window, ready to drift into sleep. The world outside is a blur of tarmac and flashing lights, and all you want is to reach your destination without a hitch. That was me, Emily Hart, on a Tuesday flight from Chicago to Denver. Just another traveler, or so I thought. But life, as it often does, had other plans. Today, I want to share with you a story, not just of a flight, but of rediscovery, courage, and the moment when a single decision changed everything. Let me take you back to that plane, to the moment when routine shattered. I was half asleep, lulled by the steady vibration of the aircraft, when the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. It wasn't the usual cheerful update about altitude or weather. It was sharp, urgent, a voice that cut through the haze of my drowsiness. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation. If anyone on board has flight experience, please press your call button immediately. Those words hit like a jolt of electricity. The cabin, once a cocoon of ordinary travelers, transformed into a space of shared fear and uncertainty. Heads lifted, whispers spread, and every passenger seemed to hold their breath, waiting for someone, anyone, to step forward. I sat frozen in row 13, my heart pounding. I wasn't supposed to be the one. I hadn't flown in years. Once, I was a flight instructor, guiding nervous students through small planes, teaching them to trust the sky, to feel the lift under their wings. But that was a lifetime ago. I had walked away from flying, choosing a steadier life to care for my father, letting my logbook gather dust. Row 13 was supposed to be my escape, my anonymity. Yet, as the silence stretched and no-call buttons lit up, I felt the weight of that moment pressing down on me. The captain's voice wasn't just a request. It was a plea, a desperate call for help, and I knew deep down that I couldn't stay silent. My hand trembled as it reached for the call button. The chime was soft, but it echoed like a thunderclap. Every eye in the cabin turned to me, a mix of hope, fear, and disbelief. The flight attendant rushed over, her face a mask of relief. "You have flight experience?" she asked. I nodded, my voice barely steady. "Flight instructor, small planes, not this." Her response was immediate, almost pleading. "That's enough. Please come with me." Enough. That word rattled in my mind. How could it be enough? I had never touched the controls of a commercial jet, never faced a crisis at 30,000 feet. But in that moment, enough was all they had. The walk to the cockpit felt endless. Passengers watched, some whispering, others nodding encouragement, their silent prayers heavy on my shoulders. I wanted to turn back, to retreat to the safety of row 13. But I knew that wasn't an option. The silence I left behind in the cabin wasn't just uncomfortable, it was accusatory. Someone had to act, and that someone, improbably, was me. Stepping into the cockpit was like crossing into another world. The space was tight, alive with blinking lights and glowing screens. A far cry from the simple cockpits I'd known. The co-pilot slumped in his seat, unconscious, his headset tangled, his face pale. The captain turned to me, his eyes sharp with exhaustion but steady with command. "You're the one?" he asked. I nodded, my voice small. "Flight instructor, single-engine planes." His jaw tightened, but relief flickered in his eyes. "Good enough," he said. "Sit down." I slid into the co-pilot's chair, my hands shaking as I buckled the harness. The captain didn't waste time. "We've had a medical emergency. My first officer collapsed. I need eyes, ears, and hands. Do exactly as I tell you." I nodded, my throat dry. The weight of the moment settled over me. Not just the weight of the aircraft, but of every soul on board. I wasn't just a passenger anymore. I was part of the crew, responsible for their lives. The captain's instructions came fast, clipped, and precise. Monitor the attitude indicator. Call out readings. Back me up. I focused on the instruments, trying to anchor myself in the familiar. Altitude, airspeed, heading. But this was no Cessna. The scale was overwhelming, the stakes unimaginable. The plane shuddered with turbulence, each jolt a reminder of how fragile our situation was. My mind raced with doubts. What if I froze? What if I made the wrong call? But the captain's voice cut through my fear. You know more than you think. Trust that. As we began our descent into Kansas City, the storm outside intensified. Winds gusted to 31 knots, rain streaked the windshield, and turbulence tossed us like a toy. The captain handed me the controls. Your controls, he said. My stomach dropped me. I wasn't ready, but his confidence in me, however forced by necessity, steadied my hands. My controls, I echoed, gripping the yoke. The plane responded, heavy but obedient, and for the first time, I felt a spark of the pilot I used to be. The approach was a battle. Crosswinds shoved us sideways, warning chimes echoed, and the runway lights flickered through the rain. I fought to keep the nose steady, to hold the crab angle, to guide the plane through the storm. The captain's voice was my anchor, calling out altitudes, urging small corrections. You've got this, he said, and somehow I began to believe him. At 50 feet I flared, easing the nose up. The wheels hit hard, the cabin gasping behind us, but we were down. The plane screamed along the runway, rain spraying, engines roaring in reverse thrust. And then, slowly, it stopped. We were safe. The silence that followed was deafening. No one clapped at first, as if afraid to break the spell. Then applause erupted, a wave of gratitude washing through the cabin. Passengers wept, hugged, whispered thanks as they passed the cockpit door. I sat frozen, my hands still trembling on the yoke, unable to process what I'd done. The captain's words broke through. Nice landing, Emily. You saved us. Hours later, as I faced a swarm of reporters and flashing cameras, I wanted to shrink away. I wasn't a hero. I was just a woman who pressed a button in row 13. But the captain stood by me, shielding me from the chaos, calling me the reason we were alive. And as dawn broke over Kansas City, as I sat with a cup of coffee staring at the sky, something shifted inside me. I wasn't just a passenger anymore. I was a pilot again. This experience taught me something profound. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act despite it. I had walked away from flying, convinced I wasn't enough, that the weight of responsibility was too much. But when the call came, when lives depended on me, I found something deeper, a strength I didn't know I had. My father once told me, "You're braver than you know." That night, I began to believe him. So, to all of you here today, I ask, what's your row 13? What's the moment you're afraid to face, the call you're hesitant to answer? You may feel unprepared, unworthy, or out of place, but sometimes, the only thing standing between you and the impossible is the courage to raise your hand. You are braver than you know. And when the moment comes, I hope you'll press that button, step into the unknown, and rediscover the person you were always meant to be. Thank you.